always by selfishness. So the principles of Sahaj Marg, total obedience to these principles depends on how much you love the Master. Everybody wants speedy progress in spirituality. That is a desire they share with everybody else without knowing what lies at the other end of the journey. Nobody knows. It is just a common thing, you know. It is an escapist wish, desire, that let me get out of this world into something which seems to be better, because we call it the brighter world, others call it heaven, the Buddhists call it nirvana, you know, and the Islam calls it Jannat. There must be some good. And we escape from this world of pain, because as long as the body is there, pleasure and pain, happiness and sorrow, all these are there because the body is subject to the dualities of existence. We don't imagine, we don't want to believe that pleasure is always followed by pain. Always. It is the law. Everything changes into its opposite. Day changes into night. Night changes into day. Pleasure changes into pain. Pain, when suffered properly, changes into pleasure. That is perhaps the philosophy behind accept pain, accept sufferings as miseries of God, as blessings of God, because then you are sure it will change it into itself into opposite condition, and by the time you reach your goal, there are no more dualities, there is only bliss, the bliss of existence, beyond which lies that which only He knows, because until we experience it, we won't know it. So without love for the Guru, you know, the obedience that we try to generate in Sahaj Marg, I asked Babuji once, do you trust or do you believe that these principles will be followed? He says, Parthasarthi, I am telling you something I cannot tell in public. Unless the Abhyasi loves the Master, they will not obey it. Because they will obey only if they are selfish. And although many people desire to be liberated, they don't really want liberation. If I ask 100 people who wants to be liberated now, you know, and I tried this so many times in our large assemblies in Europe, in the US, in India, I said, all those who want liberation now, put up your hands. Not one hand was ever raised, because they say, why, no, Master, since you are going to give me liberation, let me live a few years more. I have 2 daughters to marry off. I have still to fulfill my insurance commitments, because if I die now, I don't know what will happen to my children. My youngest boy is only 5. Who will look after him if I am gone? So please give me, no, I made a mistake. Not 5 years, give me 10 years, please. After all, you are there to liberate me. See? And we don't know, or I should say, but we don't know what is going to happen to those years if He blesses us with those years between now and liberation. I told Babuji Maharaj, you know, when he put me at the highest point and said, your work is now over, now your work is to work upon others and bring to them what I have given to you. Distribute. That teaches us many lessons. What we receive is not to be kept, but to be distributed. Distributed among deserving people, undeserving people, thrown like seeds on the fields, without judging that here it will grow, here it will not grow, therefore I will put here. You saw me feeding the fish just now. I can't feed a particular fish. If I want to feed a particular fish, I will have to isolate it and put it in a bowl, it will die. So either I feed all or I feed none. So we must understand that even things like distributing have a law of their own which says unless everybody receives, you cannot give to one in particular except if it is your family. There you start feeding your family and tell the family to feed others. Babuji gave the example of a father coming home from work, buying a packet of biscuits on the way, and he said, being a father of his son, he will first give it to his son. But he will tell the son, boy, give it to everybody. See, it's not a request, it's not an order, It is a symbol of love between father and son, that the son will obey and say, yes, Papa, and distribute it. This is the fundamental ethic of Sahaj Marg. You receive to give. If you don't give, you don't receive. When a pipe is blocked, nothing will flow through it, but it will receive nothing more. We have to become conduits, every one of us. And those who become conduits, I gave you the example of Babuji, where when he started work, he said it was like a stream, thin, conduit of transmission. It became a pipe, it became a bigger pipe. One fine day, there was no pipe. The pipe had disappeared. And he said, if I let out the full force of my energy, it can even destroy this world. So the final flood is probably nothing more than his final transmission, which says, receive and be blessed. We think of it as destruction. So many people will die, Chariji, yes, but they will be liberated. Babuji often used to talk of destruction. And particularly Western Abhyasis used to be quite bothered. They used to ask, but why destruction, Babuji? Is there no better way? He said, I'm telling you, God is all wise. If you could do it without destruction, He would not have destruction. They said, how to avoid it? He said, all if you evolve to such an extent that there be no destruction. And he said, know that every bit of destruction on earth comes because of human grossness, human vice, and human acts of destruction against nature. He said, for every leaf you pluck, there is an account being maintained somewhere, and nature will react. I have already told you this, I don't need to expatiate again on that. So nature's destruction comes only when human beings act against nature, against natural laws, things like that, you see. Therefore, we must under all circumstances obey, be simple and in tune with nature, which is one of our maxims. So Babuji loved Lalaji to such an extent that if Lalaji said no food, no food, no water, no water. I remember that old Sufi story about a Sufi saint who was wandering in the desert, and having lost the supply of water, he was dying of thirst. He was lying there, on the sand, Allah, 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 and a camel man stopped. One was one of the travelers across the desert. And he stopped and said, what is it? Why are you like this? He said, well, I'm thirsty, I'm dying of thirst. Can you give me some water? Fan, please, fan. He said, yes, I will give you some water, and turned to fetch his water bag. When he looked back, he found this saint. Only the corpse was there and it was going rotten. Maggots were eating it up. So he fell on his knees and prayed to Allah and said, Allah, what has happened to the saint? One moment he was here, next moment he is stinking. The God answered and said, my son, he was totally dependent on me. When he transferred his dependence to you, this is his destiny. So dependence is not for those moments when we need to be dependent. Like when we are about to crash into another car and say, oh, Master, help me. Of course, he will help you. Therefore, constant remembrance, because you are continuously remembering him, nothing can befall against his will. If it is his will that you should suffer the accident and learn a lesson, you will do it. Then you cannot carp and complain and say, what is this wonderful master, He permitted this to happen. Of course he permits this to happen. Nature permits a mother to suffer when she has a baby, followed by a lifetime of happiness. Half an hour suffering, lifetime of happiness, pleasure, contentment, joy. So when God gives, He does it to correct a situation and give you pleasure and happiness thereafter. What was correction of situation when you have a baby? It is that the motherhood was not there. She did not enjoy motherhood. Therefore, He corrected the situation and gave her a baby. And now I learnt one very good lesson, very necessary lesson. That when people have, say for instance, in their past lives, hated their children, nowadays it's very common. People don't want babies. They want pleasure without babies. Nature says, no, this was not an instrument of pleasure. It is an instrument to have babies, and when you are misusing it, no babies. So I advise them, adopt a baby. And very often when they adopt, immediately they have children. I can give you several cases in our own satsang, but not necessary. See? Even when you totally accept with your heart the idea of adoption and say, this will be my baby, he shall be like this, he shall be like that. You know, expectant mothers are always crooning to their babies. My son will be a Raja, you know, so all sorts of funny things. Their own, shall we say, fantastic images of what they want to be. So that the motherhood, the desire for motherhood must reopen in a different way. That the heart is now open to a baby which need not be biologically mine. The moment you accept, of course you adopt the baby, instantly comes your conception. I have seen this happening again and again, but especially in this wonderful land of India, I don't know why adoption is not totally accepted yet. I mean, very scarcely accepted. All because, and here again comes this corrupting idea of money, all because my wealth should go to my biological blood son. As if an adopted son is not my son. As if the 100 cats for which a millionaire lady in New York left $6 million when she died. She didn't give birth to cats. As if the dog I own in my house is born to my wife. Why not a baby born to some other mother be mine also? When this largeness of the heart comes, that I am a mother. The Virgin Mary is not our mother. She was only Jesus' mother. And whether she was his biological mother is, a question to be thought over, because he did not have a biological father. He was born of a miracle, the virgin birth of Mary. Yet we love Mother Mary, Mamer, Santa Maria. See? Why not at the other end of the scale we love babies? Every baby we see on the street is mine. Of course it has a mother, but it is no less mine. That is the right way to look upon children, brothers and sisters. They need not be born out of the same mother as I was born. Nevertheless, they are my brethren. Therefore, Sahajmar teaches, look upon all as your brothers and sisters. And therefore, we have the 9 o'clock prayer at night, where we pray for all. And slowly you find people coming. When we broadcast seeds, all the birds eat. We don't call one bird. I may have a bird at home, my pet, I feed it. But when I scatter food on the grass, so many birds come and eat it. And they will be my friends. I have one pet at home, I have a lot of friends outside. Which is better? You know the story of the lion which was caught in a net, hunter's net. And a rat came and a mouse cut it free. You know that story, Aesop's fables. Like that, which bird will be our savior in the future life? Remember the story I told you about the emperor and his fish? They saved him from hell, eternal hell, by just getting out of the Lord the promise of 5 minutes in heaven. So these are the great mysteries of spirituality. We are always going after the mysteries of science. Science has no mysteries. They are all open. Why is this tree green? Chlorophyll. How does it breathe? Everybody knows. Why should you put it inside the house at night or day, whatever? We know. How are children born? We know. None of this knowledge is essential to existence, because human existence is given merely to transcend it and go beyond. If we obey and if we perform according to the tenets that we have in our own heart, which are only reawakened and brought into our consciousness by the sayings of the Guru. Remember, they are only reawakened. I don't receive teaching. I only receive awakening. Like a sleeper, please wake up. The disciplined man wakes up because he makes the thought earlier. Previous night say, I'll wake up at 4, 3:55 is awake. Here we are not disciplined. So the knowledge, the infinite knowledge that every human has a right for is lying hidden in my heart like gold under my house, of which I am not aware. Guru speaks, and little by little this knowledge comes. Now I have to act not at all on his instructions, which are there only to remind me of the instructions I have in my heart, impressed therein by myself. So when I obey the Guru, I am only obeying myself. When he says do this, I must only do that which I have not done before, but we say, no, I have to do to get there. It is like a mother telling a child who are wandering along the platform, looking at books, looking at sweets, looking at biscuits, longing for them. Honey, come quickly, the train is about to move. And she puts the child into the train and gets on. Suppose she got in first, she might very well move off without the train, without the baby. So finally we come to this understanding, he is one who reminds us of why we are born, the purpose of our birth, and reawakens the knowledge lying hidden in ourselves. And had we tarried in a past life on the way, he is there to help us to move further on the way. And his purpose is only to guide us lovingly by hand to our destination.